So since we are doing a webinar on DevOps, my question to you guys, and I want you to basically unmute yourself and speak up, okay? Because it is important that we assume that we are in a large conference room here, and you should interact with me. There are 32 participants as of now, and I just want to hear exactly what do you mean by DevOps? Have you heard about this before? Or this is the first time since your college told that okay, Mr. Aditya is here, Basavaraj is saying he's a great speaker. You guys are here part of this webinar. What exactly is DevOps all about? Anybody has done any research? Can somebody speak up? Unmute yourself, guys. This is your chance to speak up. Okay, imagine that I'm standing in a conference room and I'm just asking you to speak up. Okay, so
operations.
say it again. I missed it.
It's a development and operations, which involves from start to the scratch level to the till deployment to the end user, then monitoring and controlling.
Okay, and can I know your name as well? Okay, very nice. So I think you have basically summed it up. So DevOps is actually constructed by two words, dev and ops. Okay, and as you said, it is basically about getting these people or the teams work together. Question to you guys: when you say development and when you say operations, what do you mean by development team and what do you mean by operations team? Anybody?
Plan, build, plan, code, build, test, release, deploy.
So again, I think
monitor. This is
yeah.
what.
So this is the Pressman book that we are speaking. We don't want to ask you theoretical questions here. Be just think about what do you mean by operation. Forget about dev. So what do you mean by operations, guys? So are you using any application today? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a director of the company. The way day to day we this complete cycle of the people who work on that.
Yeah.
And once the development is complete, the code is shipped to the release. Where the release is done, the deployment happens. Once the deployment happens, the end user at the customer levels, we need to monitor and control it. The issues which day to day comes up, then we have to resolve. That's what we call it the production issues. Similarly, this end-to-end development to the deployment, what we manage, the various tools and technology which we use it is called a development to operations.
Fair enough. So we are talking about development to operations. And thank you so much for summing it up so beautifully. Now, to all the students, okay, I'm asking this question especially to all the students that if suppose I am using ICICI Bank website, okay, or any other HDFC Bank website, do you guys have ATM card? Do you guys have bank accounts? I'm assuming everybody has. Yes or no? Yeah?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so now question is when you are using HDFC or your own bank website, where exactly is that website running? Anybody can tell me? So is it a difficult question? Are you an end user of the application, by the way? What do you mean by HDFC web application or ICICI web application? Or for example, if I'm saying it is Citibank application or a Standard Chartered application. So my question is very simple. Okay. When you are using this website, where is this application running? Anybody can tell me?
Sir, on web servers.
Yes. So running it on web server. And where are these web servers?
Sir, there are web hosting companies. They operate these web servers.
And who are these web hosting companies? Any idea? All right, so I'm going to ask you these difficult questions, which are practical questions, all my friends. Okay, so make sure that you also try to ask any questions that you have. Okay, if I'm using a term you are free to ask me. As Basavraj said that there are certain things that we are so familiar with and yet we may not be able to understand. So for example, when I say when you type hdfcbank.com, can somebody tell me what happens? Okay, this is what I am saying. Okay, let's say I go to the website and I say hdfcbank.com and the website opens. So what is going on behind the scene? Can somebody tell me, please? Okay. No one?
Client is requesting a page.
Who is the client?
End user, sir.
So here, like if I am basically typing hdfcbank.com, I am the end user.
The browser.
Browser. So I am basically the end user. I type it on the browser. Browser is what? It's basically a what? An application.
Client, sir.
It's
Yeah,
a client
exactly.
application. It's a web application, and it is basically
Yes.
transferring the traffic over HTTP protocol. And
Yes.
what and how does it translate that hdfcbank.com? So somebody said web server. Is it basically translating to some web server IP address or not?
Yes, sir. DNS. It is querying to the DNS.
Okay, and what is DNS?
Domain network service. Sorry, naming service.
Okay.
Naming system.
So if you look at what I am doing, yeah, go ahead.
System.
Yeah. So obviously there is basically domain name servers are there. So what happens is that when you buy a domain, you have to make sure that your domain name is pointing to certain servers, and those servers are basically hosting your applications, and these applications are the ones which respond back. So first the traffic, it hits the HDFC Bank DNS server, then a DNS server transfers to the server which is being which is hosting your application. Okay, this application can be a web application which is basically running in Java technology, can be Python, can be Golang, any technology, or basically any of these front end technologies. Then it can have a backend, it can have microservices, all those architecture can be there, right? Now, people who are managing these servers are the people who are called as operational team. Okay, these are called as IT team. So my question, and why did I go so much in detail, is that you should understand that there are two set of teams here. One team which is actually developing the code, people who are writing the code in Java, maybe in Python, maybe JavaScript, whatever the code is, okay? And there is a separate set of people who are maintaining these servers. Those are called as operations team, right? Is it clear? So when basically development team develops something, they give it to the operations team, and the operation teams basically deploys it. Deploy means that it installs it, or it basically puts the code on those servers, right? So these servers are the ones which have to be maintained, and that is what is the ops team. So if you look at the term DevOps, the whole term actually happened because these were separate teams. A development team kept on developing the code, and they kept on pushing this code to the ops team. Ops team had no idea how many times the code will change and how will they get to know what is changing. What about uptime? How do we maintain the stability? How can we support this entire code base in a longer run? So there was a disconnect, and that is where we say that there was a wall of confusion. So there were two set of teams. Remember the ops team which is maintaining the servers, and the dev team which is maintaining or which is basically creating the code, and dev team includes the testing team as well. So they will code, they will test, they will code, they will test. But the ops team is the one which is deploying it on the servers. And since they were not working together, they were working in silos, they were working independently, there was a wall between them. And if there is a wall between them, the delay in deployment happened because there was a backlog of these code or these releases ops team could not manage. So even though I wanted my software to change fast, ops team was not able to deploy it on the end servers, and that is where this delay, and that is where the term DevOps came into being. So what is DevOps? DevOps is all about having a collaboration in these two set of teams or these two set of people, and we want them to work together. So this is just the theory part, but there is a lot of tools and a lot of technology behind all this scene as well. Okay, but on the entire side, it is not only about coder and developer and the operation teams. There are other set of peoples maybe. So there is a business analyst, the domain guys, the product owners or the client. Then there are testers, QA team, then the coder, which is the actual called as developers, and the ops team. All have to work together. So if they work independently, things will not work. They will basically have their own bottlenecks, and if there are bottlenecks, the release time will slow down. So the faster release will not happen. We want to make sure that we bring them together. Okay. So I'll come to this slide maybe last. Okay. Remember, these are the benefits we are talking about. We are talking about that DevOps brings in speed and quality. But remind me that I'm going to show this slide again. Question to you guys. Just like I said, HDFC, can you please tell me how many servers Google have and how many servers Facebook have? And question to you guys, how many times does FB changes or Facebook changes its website, or new changes are deployed for Facebook? Anybody? Is it once in 6 months, once in 8 months, once in a year? And how many server does Google have? Would you say that Google has 1 server, 10 server? How many? How many servers does Facebook have? Any idea? Anybody? Are you guys able to hear me? So I'm taking a pause here. Somebody has to answer these questions. Hello, are you guys there?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Guys,
so
please respond. You guys have been using Facebook so intensively, you should know that,
Yeah. So I want that you guys interact with me. That is the reason I'm going to stop if you don't speak up. And it is interesting. Okay, so don't worry, guys. I'm going to go get into practical very soon. Okay, but for that you have to understand what I'm going to show you very soon. You have to basically appreciate that if you don't understand this well, then whatever I'm going to show you, the technology stuff, the coding stuff, all that will go over the head. So the question, very simple question, guys. How many servers do you think Google has?
So
Sir,
more
Google
than
has
50,000.
900,000 servers.
Where did you search?
Yeah, Google, sir.
Good. And how many servers does Facebook have?
Near to that, sir.
Yeah, it is actually more than a lakh, or maybe basically 900,000 is 100,000 is 1 lakh. It is, we're talking about a million servers. So, and that is an older number. So Google might have a 1 million servers. Facebook has close to that as well. So question to you guys, if we talk about deploying our code on 1 server versus if we want to deploy it on 10 servers, if you want to deploy it on 100,000 servers and 900,000 servers, do you think it is easy to do that? What is deployment of code? Anybody who has developed a website or anybody who is developing some programs? Yes, no? How many of you know what is Tomcat?
It is a server. Tomcat is a server.
Tomcat is a web server. Yeah.
Yes.
And Tomcat is the web server where you deploy your website so that it can basically service the request that is coming from the client. Yes.
To host
So if you're talking
web
about, yeah, host a website or web page, you're right there, right? Now, question to you guys, if you have to create a website and you have to put it on 1 machine versus basically 900,000 machines, do you see the challenge? And by the way, why do you need so many machines? When I say servers, 900,000 servers, do you think that why does Google need so many servers, and why does Facebook need so many servers? Why can't they live with 1 server? Anybody?
to avoid the conflicts and all.
No.
It has to handle different requests.
Yeah, to avoid the traffic.
To make sure that the request that you send is responded at a speed of light. Because what happens is that when you have too many people requesting, you have to have many servers responding as well. So there's a concept called load balancing. As soon as there is a traffic which the server cannot respond, it spawns up another server. At any given point, this is basically unknown to the end user, but the speed is there. How many of you have tried booking a railway reservation at 10 o'clock when probably before COVID situation in a Tatkal booking? Anybody? IRCTC website? Do you guys travel by trains? Nobody?
Yes.
Yeah. Have you ever tried to book a ticket?
Yes, during the 10 o'clock Tatkal, it will be very, it will be slow. Server will be very slow.
And why do you think server is slow?
Because most of the people will be trying that website. Obviously, the traffic will be there. So the
Yes.
site will become very busy.
Yes. And how many users would Facebook entertain and how many users will Google have at any given point? So they need that many servers to handle these requests. Okay. Do you appreciate the number of servers now?
Yes, yes.
And that is where when you want to, and question to you, how many times does Facebook change its or bring out a new change? So when you say release or a patch, how many times does Facebook changes its software or you have a new patch coming in Facebook? Any rough idea? Do they change their code every 10 days? Do they change it every 30 days? Do you get a release every 6 months? How often do they change? Any idea?
So every day.
So
Every
every
day,
month, I guess.
every
Because
day, multiple times. Okay, so
Every
somebody
day I
said
have hundreds.
yeah, it is basically they have the capacity to change and deploy it multiple times during the day, but they don't do it at one given time for all the servers. They have a different policy, and all that we are talking today with number of servers and number of changes that we're talking about. Without DevOps, it is not possible, guys. Okay, so what I'm going to show you is something very simple, but you will get an idea about how things are happening in the real world today. It is very, very important. DevOps is one of the most important topics today that any engineer, especially from the IT or computer science or even electronics background, should be aware of. And you should basically be knowing this hands-on. So I'm going to show you some hands-on demo here, okay? And I'll be taking a sample case study to explain the DevOps pipeline. Are you guys ready? So the reason I'm asking you questions is I want to make sure at 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you guys are not in a habit of sleeping, okay? Because of COVID, we really don't know how sleepy you are feeling here, right? There are 37 attendees and I have heard only 2 or 3 voices. I am very worried about the others here at this moment. Yeah, are you guys ready? Should I take this case study or not?
Yes, sir. We are ready,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. Okay, let's begin. Okay. So by the way, I'm going to show you a lot of technology. I'm going to talk about Java. I'm going to talk about Maven. I'm going to talk about Apache Tomcat, a little bit of JSP, HTML. I'm going to talk about a Linux machine, a cloud machine, Jenkins, maybe Docker, all these things. Okay. So get ready, guys. Okay. So for example, the first demo that I'm going to do is this one, guys. Demo is building and deploying application, a simple web application in local Tomcat server. Okay. How many of you have worked on Eclipse and Java? Anybody? Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir, we have worked.
Okay, so I'm going to start basically a Tomcat server. This is basically on my machine. It's on D drive, and I'm going to run a command startup.bat. Okay. It's going to start basically Tomcat web server. So I want to make you appreciate the fact that how does development happen, how does deployment happen, and how does things happen in a DevOps world? Because if you do manual deployments and if you have to deploy it on 100,000, 900,000 servers, you can't basically run it. This is not the way that the system will actually work. There is a lot of technology. It says the server is up. So normally when the server is up, it runs on local host, which is your local My Machine, and by default it is running on port number 8080. Okay. And I have created already a application which I'm going to change shortly. This application is deployed here. It says DevOps session by me. Welcome everybody to all the faculty and students. Okay. It's a counter web. Every time you refresh it, the counter goes up. Okay. That's what is the technology. It has got a JavaScript and Java code base running. And this is the code that I have. Okay. So I have a base controller file where I have the message. So I'm going to say this is demo 1. Local Tomcat. And I'm going to save this file. I'm going to basically be in this directory here and I'm going to basically say I'm going to use Maven as the build tool. Maven is basically used for building the Java projects. Okay, and I'm going to say Maven package. When I say package, it's going to create a WAR file. WAR file is basically called as web archive file, which can be deployed on a web server. By the way, when I'm doing this, and if you have any questions, you are free to ask me. Okay. So this counterweb app.war was actually built, and I'm going to now deploy it. Okay. So for example, I will go to the folder that I have. This is basically the college one. This is the project that I have. In the target folder, this particular file, it around 4:58 p.m. this was created. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it in the Apache Tomcat web apps folder. Okay. Okay, it says replace the existing file. It's going to get refreshed in a short while. Okay, so this is the manual deployment. It's not come up yet. So right now it is refreshing it. Server is down for maintenance reason. Yeah. And this is where the new one came, demo one. Any questions so far? So are you with me? What I just did? What I have is basically a Java JSP application. I compiled and built using Maven. Maven is basically a build tool. I created a WAR file. WAR file name was counter web app. And then I copied, or you can say deployed it on local Tomcat. Yeah, are you guys with me? Was this visible to you what I did?
Yes, sir.
It is visible.
Okay. Now, basically, what happens is that, let me ask you another question. Question to you guys is that in a team, in a realistic team, is there only one developer in a team? How many developers do you think would be there in a team when you say dev and ops? Any rough idea?
Sir, maybe 3 to 4.
Maybe 3 to 4. Anybody else? And how many developers do you think Facebook might have?
So many.
So many means how many? And how many developers would ICICI Bank have? And how many developers would basically HDFC Bank have? And maybe they are basically working for some of the big IT companies. Maybe they are working, they are basically, let's say TCS is working for ICICI, and TCS might have 500 developers working on the ICICI website, right? Or Facebook may have 5,000 people team working for the Facebook entire application, right? So larger projects may have many developers, yes or no? Yeah. So question here is that my file that I changed, look, this is the file that I am working on, and there are so many other files. It is a very small project. So it has got multiple Java files and others. Maybe if you look at it, it has got other resources as well. It has got basically HTML files as well. Let me show you where it is. Yeah. Okay, it has got this web.xml and then it has got index.jsp page. Now, question to you is that when you have so many files and you have got so many developers working together and they are all working on their local machines, and when they change the code, can something go wrong? Yes or no?
No, sir, it will be at the local machine. It won't harm or it won't affect.
Yeah, but let's say that two people working on the same file at the same time. Can it happen?
Yes, sir, chances are there.
So, and suppose like let's say that Aditya is also working and you're also working on the same file. I make a change and you also make a change. Can the files be in a wrong state and the compilation may not happen?
Conflicts may occur.
Right. There could be conflicts, and that is where the problem happens. That is why you need a good integration tool and you need an automatic integration. So suppose 500 people working on the project, if I make a change and I push it to the code base, then the code should compile. Okay, so that is where there is a technology. How many of you know what is basically GitHub and SCM tools. Okay, have you heard about something like SCM tool like GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab? How many of you have worked on that? Anybody?
Here is software configuration management tool.
Yeah, it is software configuration management tool. That's right. My question is,
And GitHub is a distributed hosting tool, which basically used to configure.
yeah. So do you have any GitHub accounts or GitLab accounts or
and
Bitbucket
push
accounts?
the-
So does anybody have any final year projects
I
and
have.
you have any GitHub account or GitLab account?
Yes,
So GitHub was acquired by Microsoft. Are you guys aware about that?
I have a GitHub account.
Yeah, very good. All right. So the whole idea is what, that you have to have a code base which is in the cloud or which is accessible by multiple teams. And anytime I push the code, the compilation should happen. Okay. Because if the compilation is broken, then everything is broken. The code base is not correct. So what I'm going to show you is the next tool, which is called as Jenkins. Okay. And then I'll come back to auto deployment on the remote cloud machine as well. So I'm talking about now SCM and a tool called Jenkins. It is called as a CI tool, which is called as a continuous integration tool. Okay, so my code base is right now lying on a GitLab account. This is where my project is. Okay, anytime I want to make a change, it is right now on this particular repository. Okay, now let me just show you, if I want to make a change, let me also quickly show you what is Jenkins. Okay, one second. So I'm running, this is my cloud machine. Okay, exit. So this is the IP address that I have, 164.52.192.166. It is a Linux machine where I'm running my Jenkins. Okay, I'm going to log into this machine. And I am running basically here a Jenkins server. So this Jenkins server is running on this machine, 164.52.192.166, and the port number is 9090. I'm going to log into this DevOps and test 123 is my password. Okay. Now what happens is that when I log into this machine, I have created a job here. Job is basically like a small project, and this project is connected to my workspace, and I have basically configured it such that it is connected to my GitLab account. This is my GitLab repository, and I have given the credentials, so it is basically a private repository. I have given the password and all. And anytime basically I make a change to this Jenkins project will pull in the latest code, and it will basically do something which is called as compile. It will do a clean and compile. Okay, let me just show you how does it happen. Okay, so right now if you look at it, sometime during the afternoon it is running 5:30 hours. It is running on a GMT time base. So maybe an hour back it actually ran the 4th number of build. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check in the code. Okay, so here in this case I am using git. I'm going to say git status. It is going to change. It will tell me that a file has been changed. This file has been changed. Base controller.java file has been changed. I'm going to push it to the GitLab account. So I will say git add to the local git repository, git commit with a -m demo1. Okay, and then I'm going to say git push to my repository. So what it will do is it will, from my local machine, it is going to push the code to the cloud, and then automatically the compilation will happen. So what I'm going to show you is that at any given point, if there are 5,000 developers working and they push the code base to a common repository, the build gets automatically fired, which means the compilation is happening and the integration is happening at a runtime, which is basically within a minute or so. Okay, so you will see number 5 getting fired very quickly. And if you look at the code base here, it will show that my source file basically has changed. If you look demo1, this is where I just 54 seconds away it actually got changed. And look, this is the automatically the compilation is happening. So it will fetch the entire code base and it is basically compiling. It says compilation success. So what I have shown you as the second demo is that my code or the developer code, even if there are 5,000 developers, any given time, if they change the code, the compilation has to be perfect, which means all the code, all the files have to integrate together and build together. Yeah, are you guys with me? So this is basically an automatic build firing. No human intervention required. Even if I change it again, the compilation will automatically happen, right? Are you guys with me? So what I just showed you is basically the demo 2. Rather than manual compilation, remember I did a manual build here. So if I say, in this case, I ran a command mvn package, it not only compiled it, packaged it as well. In this case, what I have done is I have used SCM, which is basically a software or basically source control management or software configuration management tool like GitLab or GitHub. And I have integrated with a Jenkins server, and both of these together auto builds are happening. So it can check whether the code is touched by many, is it good or bad or not. Okay. Now let me do you one more thing. I'll come back to the step 2, but what I can show you is that how do you basically deploy it on a Tomcat which is running on this machine. Okay. So in this machine the Tomcat is running. Okay, this is where my Tomcat is running. Okay, and right now I have deployed an older version of the server here. Okay, it is saying, remember it is not showing the demo, whereas this one is basically, if you look at it, this one says demo 1. So right now this is actually running on a Linux machine, a Tomcat. Let's say this is a production kind of a server or a testing server where I want to deploy the latest code. So I have another job. In this case, it is basically the third job. And let me show you what I have done. It is still pulling in the code from the source code repository. And in the build, I am doing a package. And once the package is there, I actually copy it on the local Tomcat server. Okay. Let me run this manually. Once it is going to fire a build quickly, manually this time. So it is extracting the code base from the GitLab. Not only it is compiling, but it is also making sure that the packaging is done. If there are any tests, it is running as well. And it is also making sure that the deployment happens. Now, this is my local host and this is my Linux host, which is also running Tomcat. If I refresh it here now, look, the latest code is now deployed on my remote machine as well. Yes or no? So here I manually copied it. Here it is automatically copied onto my remote machine. And this remote machine is running a Tomcat server. Are you guys following what I'm doing?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So as a step that I have done, I have also done something which is basically deploying the code or the WAR file on a remote cloud machine, cloud virtual machine, virtual Linux machine through a tool called Jenkins. And in between, basically, I also used Jenkins for compilation check. Okay. And what I can do is I can create a small quick pipeline. Not only it will do this deployment, it can also in intermediate, let's say 5B step, it can also do something which is called as code quality check. Also do something called as unit testing automatically, which is automated unit testing. I can do also Selenium 1 as well, but for the demo purposes, I am going to show you these two parts, where I'm going to use a tool called, one tool is called as PMD. Another tool is called as Kobojura. Okay, they do something called as code quality check and also do code coverage check. So can the code be bad or poor or good? Question to you guys. When you say code, let's say Java code, can it be poor quality? Can it be good quality? How do we know what is the quality of the code? Anybody?
Sir, the compile time should be minimum.
Okay, that is optimization part, but we say code itself. Do you write comments?
Yeah.
Do you write basically, suppose for example, if I say my class name is Aditya versus if I say my class name is Aditya, what do you think is a better name? Class name starting with small a and a class name starting with capital A. Anybody?
Capital A.
Yes.
Capital
So in Java, the coding standard is that the class name is camel case.
Yeah.
And suppose if I say if, and if I am writing like this versus if I am saying writing like this, what do you think is better? Or if I am writing like this? Anybody?
Last one.
So
Third one.
these are accepted. Yeah, you might need to mute yourself once you speak. So both these are accepted. This is not a good coding standard. Okay, so if people start writing code which is not following standards, then we say it is poor quality, because there are so many people, and if somebody leaves a job and there is a new developer who comes in, he should be able to understand the code. So everybody follows the standard. You just can't name a variable. Suppose if I say integer I, integer j, or I say class something. So these are called as your variables are not named properly. Okay, because if I am not naming my variables properly, then the coding standards are not followed. Maintenance of the code goes for a toss. We have to make sure that the code is good quality. So there is manual reviews or automation is included here by a tool called PMD. Okay. Similarly, there is another technology which is called as code coverage. So we do unit testing, and how much percentage of the code is actually tested. If it is basically a code being used in a medical industry, or if it is being used for space industry, we want every line of code should be tested. If it is not 100% coverage, then we cannot release the code. Okay, so as soon as you start moving into industry, these are some practices that you should be aware of. So what I'm going to show you next is my second job, which is basically here. It is my second job, and here I have configured it such that when I run it, it fires basically two commands, pmd:/pmd and kobuchara:/kobuchara, and it actually brings out these reports. Let me fire it once. Okay, let me build it now. Okay, by the way, I'm building it manually. And when we talk about DevOps pipeline, everything has to be automated. It fires one after the other, which I'm going to show you, and I'll quickly tell you how to do that. Okay, so it is basically right now doing the compilation part. Then it is going to run the PMD plugin. It found 9 issues. Then it is going to run any test, and then it will say it will generate a Kobuchara report. Okay, and if I now go to here, let me first show you the PMD report first. Okay, it is here. Sorry. So it says that there are unused imports. It has got a class name which is short. It has got a method name which is short. Variable names like AP are not accepted. The statement does not have braces. It has found 9 issues. Okay, these are code quality issues. Similarly, if I look at my coverage report, it tells me that none of the files, none of the classes, none of the methods, none of the files, none of the conditions are actually tested. So there is no unit testing in this particular code base, which is bad. Okay. So what I'm showing you is that there are technology available by which you can check the amount of testing which the code has been gone through. We can also find out the code coverage, and we can automate this entire pipeline till the end. So let me quickly show you that I have this first one which gets automatically fired. Then the second one, I'm going to link it to the first one now. Okay, so the triggering mechanism, let me say that it should trigger after my first one is done. Okay, and let me go. I'm trying to create a pipeline now. I'll just show you what I'm doing. Okay, and add a third, which is basically deploying automatically deployment on the local Tomcat, which is remote. I'm going to create a triggering mechanism by which a second one is there. So what I'm doing is here, please try to understand. Okay, what I'm doing is I'm trying to create a pipeline. My first project is Addy first. It gets fired whenever SCM has any change. What is SCM? GitLab. Okay. Then this will fire my second project, which is called as Addy second. And once that is compiled, it will fire my third project, which is third one. So what I have done is I have created a pipeline. The first, second, and third will automatically get fired. Let us show you how. Okay. So let us change it to the message here, demo 2. Okay. And I will say this is basically a pipeline demo. I'm going to save it. I'm going to basically look at what is the file that has changed. So this file has been modified. I'm going to basically add it in the local repository. I'm going to commit this pipeline demo. And then I'm going to push it to the GitLab. So as soon as I do this, if I go to the dashboard, this first one might get kicked in anytime. Okay. So, sorry. In this case, let me just show you my controller page, which is on the GitLab account. So my GitLab, look, this is the pipeline demo. I have changed it 28 seconds ago. If I want to refresh it again, it will say 38 seconds ago, 36 seconds ago. And this is the project right now. The earlier one was 5. It will automatically, the sixth one should get fired automatically. How many of you have given demo to your professors and all? Do you feel that the demo may go wrong? Yes, no? Demos are very tricky, guys. Okay, everything has to fall in place. So I'm just praying, and that is why I pray at the beginning of my presentation as well. That may peace be with everyone, including myself. Okay, good. So this is the sixth one which is running. It is going to run it now. Yeah, it is now executing. Look. Okay. So the compilation will happen. And if I go here on my dashboard, look, this is the first one which is running. And then it will fire the second one immediately after that. Yeah, okay, look, this is the second one in the queue. Now the second one is getting fired. Can you see this, guys? I hope you guys are with me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. And now the third one, once it is done, the third one will also run, guys. Okay. And the third one is basically a deployment on the remote machine. So look, this is my remote machine. Sorry, this is my remote machine. Here it is saying demo 1. And after the third one, now once it is done, it will, oh, look, third one is fired. Okay. So the pipeline is there. So once the third one is done, this is complete end to end, no manual intervention required, and the build will get compiled, checked, and in a minute or so, look, this is basically auto deployed. Yeah, did you see what happened? Yes, no. So by the way, this is the Linux server. This is running a Tomcat on port 8080, and what I have just shown you is a pipeline of jobs, which is basically like a mini DevOps pipeline, which basically pulls the code from the SCM tool like GitLab, compiles it, does the code quality checks, and also deploys it on local Tomcat machine. Yeah, are you with me? Yes, no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So now what happens is that there is another term. How many of you know what is Docker? Anybody has heard a term called Docker?
No, sir.
And have you heard about a term called virtual machines?
Yes, sir.
And what is basically a normal machine? So when you basically run it, like for example, my normal Windows machine, if I deploy it, that is a hardware that I am running. And that can be broken down into multiple virtual machines by using something called as Oracle VirtualBox or VMware. If I run VMware and Oracle VirtualBox, my virtual machines, I can run Linux on my Windows machine as well using Oracle VirtualBox. Okay. Now Docker is beautiful because Docker is the in thing. When you have got 900,000 servers running, they may not be physical machines. Either they may be VMs because the cost of VMs is also high. They are basically Docker containers. Okay. My request that you guys have to do some work around. So if you are not on mute, can you guys put yourself on mute? Okay. I'm going to use a command called docker ps-a, and you will see that there are so many dockers running. This is the Docker container which is running in its own application on this Linux machine. I can run multiple Docker containers or Tomcat here. All of these are running on different ports. Okay. So on 9797 port, this is basically running a Tomcat. Believe that it is a server, okay, which is like a Tomcat server right now. So if suppose, for example, I want to show you that I am running a Tomcat in a Docker container, rather than basically port 8080, I am running it on 9797. This is running it on a, assume that it is like a small machine or a small server which does not consume too much memory and space. So it is easier and much more efficient, and I can run multiple machines within a machine in simple terms. Okay. Now this is running a Docker container, and I had a deployment which is an older version, the first version which I just showed you. Now what I want to do is I want to run an end-to-end pipeline. I will just demo you the fourth job that I have. Okay. My fourth job, basically, if I build, it deploys it on this particular Docker container. Okay. It runs automatically very fast. Okay. And when I run it like this, it is just going to take a second to get deployed. Yeah. This is basically, now it is basically deployed on the basically a Docker container as well. Now I want to add this also into the pipeline. Let me configure this, and in the build triggers, I am going to say add a third. Okay, so what I am doing is, let me make you understand this. So I have created 4 projects. Add a first. This is triggered by SCM changes. Then once the ADI first is compiled and it is running fine, everything works fine, it fires ADI second. And then ADI second fires ADI third. And then it fires ADI fourth. So now there are basically 4 jobs which are in a pipeline. Okay. The first one, it is basically all about compilation. The second one is all about code quality and coverage. Third job is all about local Tomcat or Linux Tomcat deployment, like a cloud server, like a VM server. This one is basically a server running in a Docker container. And what we are doing is we are deploying it on a second container, which is basically like a Docker server. Okay, Docker container. The term is like this. And if this one works fine, this one will get fired, then the third one get fired, and the fourth one will get fired. Okay, let's do our final change. I will say this is the full 4 job pipeline. Full jobs. Okay, I'm going to save it. I'm going to just say git status just to show you that this file has been changed. And the commands are actually very simple. The first command that we do is called as git add. And then the second is git commit. And the last one is basically git push origin master. This pushes it to the cloud GitLab account. Now, once this is here, this is my GitLab account. If I refresh it here, you will see this is the final 17 seconds ago. Okay. And now basically if I have the dashboard, this is in the queue already. My first job will compile. It will get fired automatically, which is the compilation job. Okay, remember here, this is where my pipeline demo 2 is, not the final one. This is basically running on the cloud machine, and this is basically running on let me stop this. This is running on my Docker one. This is also the pipeline demo, not the final one. If you look at, this is the first one which is going to get compiled. Now it is fired the second one. This is the compilation check. By the way, it can be designed that if any job fails, it sends an email out, it can send a WhatsApp message. So everybody in the world will know that the build is broken, the pipeline is broken. And the people who break it, they get penalized. Then my third job is getting fired. Yeah, do you see this? The third one right now running, started 10 seconds ago. And then automatically this will fire the fourth one. And this is in the queue. So fourth one is getting fired. All done. So if I now go here and I refresh this, yeah, this is the final full jobs. Welcome. Okay, automatic deployment. And now if I just do this, this is also deployed on my Docker container. Okay, so what I have just demoed to you is basically the entire DevOps pipeline with 4 jobs in it. And this is the schematic diagram that will look like. Okay, so build, quality check, local deploy, and Docker deploy. So ideally, if you see this symbol, which is basically called as the DevOps symbol, it is like an infinity symbol, and this happens automatically. So what happens is that whenever there is a new build, quality check happens, deploy happens, and we can actually have many more things in it. We can have monitoring solutions. So if monitoring happens, it reports to the end user. Then a new build comes. So this is like a continuous cycle going on endlessly. And this is how the entire DevOps pipeline looks like. Okay, so for example, the DevOps pipeline, it starts from the requirement. Okay, goes to the development team, they build it, they check into the Git. Then we use tools like Maven to build it using Jenkins. We test it, we deploy it using tools like Puppet, Chef, Artifactory. We deploy it on basically systems like Kubernetes and Docker, and then we have monitoring solution. And all this is basically running in like a loop, all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that is what it happens. This is your DevOps pipeline in action, guys. Okay. With this, I'm going to take a break here, and I'm going to ask you any questions that you have. I hope that I was able to convey this DevOps subject with little demo of the pipeline and auto pipeline here. Not sure how many of you got it. Hopefully it would add some value, right? So any questions you want to ask, guys? The floor is open right now. And I will share a feedback form. If you guys can fill that out, I'm going to put it on the chat, and I'll ask request sir as well to make sure that they can share. But it is something which is really required, guys. This is one of the cutting edge technologies. Okay. Any questions, sir? Anybody wants to ask any questions?
Rajendra.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go
you
ahead,
did a
Rajesh.
great job. The thing is like you did a great job. The thing is that see most of the industry as well, the guys who are there participated. We could have connect with the some kind of scenarios we were doing earlier as a manual way, and these are the tools which came into the picture. How it simplifies our life in day-to-day activities. But most of the common scenario to the extended scenario is really helpful for them. I thought these tools will really makes them a lot of sense. You understand?
Yeah, very well said, sir. Somebody can they mute themselves? Yeah, there's a background noise coming somewhere. Anyways, so idea is what simple, sir. I hope that people can.
Generally, what happens? Most of the folks in Git and what is the purpose of that, and how the GitHub really works. What is the point of using Git, and how we really works with that? What are the differences with the earlier tools, and how the Git occurs? Those really makes a lot of learning curve to the people. So I assume this is really helpful for them to connect in an overview way. But you did a great job.
Yes, any questions from any participants?
Aditya, you may want to cover in case they have to practice by themselves. Is there some placeholder that they could look at? Just playing around the stuff, you know. Aditya, are you on mute?
Sorry, I accidentally put myself on mute. So what I was saying is that you can actually practice on use. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah. Okay. So you can practice Jenkins. You can practice GitLab. You can practice Maven and Gradle. You can actually look at what are Docker commands. You should create your own account on Azure or basically AWS or on GCP. Okay. These are some technologies which are basically really required, and I'm sure that if you do this, your resume will become very strong. Okay, this is DevOps as a implementation you guys should know. I strongly recommend to you guys. You should learn it. We do conduct workshops and all, not that I'm trying to sell, but I personally feel that these are something which are really must. Okay. Anything else that somebody wants to comment? You guys are free, guys. And see, there is another thing which I recommend. So there is a, see, by the way, whoever fills this particular form, I think we will randomly choose 3 people, and then we will offer them a seat in the upcoming conference called as GTR. It's one of the largest conference. Okay, and you will learn a lot. So I would appreciate there are all kind of international speakers right now, and the speaker roster will increase up to 50 people, 50 international speakers or Indian speakers, very coveted ones. So if you want to basically attend and learn from them, don't miss to basically send your feedback, guys. Okay. Anything else, Sridhar sir, Basavraj, or otherwise we can end this.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Aditya Garag sir. Over to the beloved HOD Dr. Dinesh H. sir for the presidential remarks.
Yeah, so good evening all. Respected principal sir in his absence, and all the my dear student, and especially respected today's speaker, Mr. Aditya Jar. So it was really a wonderful and informative and interactive session which we conducted so far. Actually, we have been conducted more than 6 webinars so far, but it was really a wonderful session that we can list, and we can say it takes a highest interaction, and the students are very happy. Even many have given a feedback, many of our faculty. It was really wonderful session. We are really proud of this session, sir. Thanks for making, in spite of your busy schedule, you made it happen. So which is very trendy, and which is the need of our for industry point of view. And I pretty much thankful from CSC department side for a wonderful demonstration and discussion.
Now that's me. If you want to connect me, you can connect with me on my Twitter handle, which is AdiJ India, and my LinkedIn profile is this. I'll share it separately with your college if you guys want to connect with me.